In January 1945, as the war was ending, Adolf Hitler realized he was going to lose. Hiding in a bunker, he was scared and worried, especially after seeing what happened to his ally Mussolini in Italy. Hitler married Eva Braun, and they both chose to end their lives to avoid capture. Today, we're going to talk about Hitler's last days, one of history's most notorious figures. Ready to learn more? Let's start. As we step into the beginning of 1945, the mood among both the Allies and the Axis powers was that the Second World War was nearing its end. This conclusion cast Adolf Hitler in a vulnerable position against the advancing Allied forces. However, the Nazi leader was determined to do whatever it took to evade defeat. Facing threats from both the Soviet Union and the United States, Hitler issued a directive that all Germans between the ages of 15 and 70 must take up arms to defend their homeland. This decision had consequences, as his armament minister, Albert Speer, tried to convince him that it was not a wise move. Having every able-bodied man in the nation as soldiers meant shutting down German industry. This had a significant impact on Hitler's arms policy, affecting railways, weapon production, communications, and logistical operations, including the supply of food and resources needed to sustain the war effort. Regrettably, Hitler chose to disregard the advice of his minister, further isolating himself from his peers. On January 16th, he made the fateful decision to retreat into his Führer bunker, an underground facility he had ordered to be constructed beneath the Chancellery building. The bunker boasted more than 30 rooms, sophisticated ventilation systems, and clever camouflage to avoid detection. Its concrete walls, measuring between 2 and 4 meters thick, provided an impenetrable fortress, serving as protection against potential threats to his life. While official meetings with the High Command continued to be held in the Chancellery, Hitler increasingly secluded himself within the bunker's confines. This isolation bred paranoia, which intensified as his armed forces faced deteriorating prospects on the battlefield. In these critical moments of history, we witness a leader determined to defy the odds, even as isolation and desperation closed in around him. The decisions made during this period would have profound consequences for the course of the war and the world. As we delve into the final days of Hitler's life, we witness a disturbing transformation. His growing paranoia cast suspicion upon those closest to him, hindering his relationships with top officers. This suspicion led to severe consequences for two of his most prominent officers, Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Göring. Hitler's increasing paranoia made him accuse Heinrich Himmler of treason. Himmler's attempt to negotiate a peace deal with the Allies was seen as an act of betrayal. Similarly, suspicions arose regarding Hermann Göring, with Hitler fearing a coup. Consequently, both Himmler and Göring were stripped of their positions and imprisoned within the compound. Hitler's paranoia escalated, causing distress among officers who remained loyal. On April 27th, a particularly perplexing incident unfolded. Hitler summoned Otto Gunsche, an SS officer, and ordered him to mobilize 8,000 soldiers to break the Russian siege looming over the city. Gunsche, however, had already communicated that he could only muster 2,000 soldiers, and they were poorly organized for such a task. This response failed to satisfy Hitler, who accused Gunsche of deceit. In these harrowing moments, we witness a leader consumed by delusions and mistrust, a stark reminder of the challenges faced during those tumultuous times in history. Something not often discussed regarding the final days of Hitler's regime is the toll impending defeat took on his army. Historian Anthony Beevor, in his essay Berlin, the Fall of 1945, sheds light on this. As the war neared its end, some younger soldiers turned to drinking and seeking solace in relationships. They grappled with desperation, fearing a swift demise, and sought refuge in vices to escape their grim reality. Similar behavior was observed within the bunker where Hitler took refuge. Those surrounding the Führer often resorted to alcohol as a means of coping. They seized any opportunity to uncork a bottle, momentarily disregarding the advancing Allied forces closing in on them. In these dire circumstances, many soldiers faced a bleak future, making the appeal of alcohol and companionship all the more enticing. It serves as a somber reminder of the human response to overwhelming despair during a tumultuous period in history. On April 29, 1945, something big happened in the bunker where Adolf Hitler was hiding. He and Eva Braun, who was his girlfriend, decided to get married right there in the bunker. That night, after they got married, neither of them could sleep. They both knew that they didn't have much time left. They were really worried because they had seen what happened to Benito Mussolini, the leader of Italy, and his girlfriend Clara Petacci. Mussolini and Clara were caught, shot, and then their bodies were treated really badly by angry people in Italy. Hitler didn't want the same thing to happen to him or Eva, his new wife, so they made a plan to end their own lives together. But before they did that, Hitler made sure to tell his people exactly what he wanted to be done with his body after he was gone. He was very specific about it because he really didn't want his enemies to find his body and treat it badly like they did with Mussolini. This was all happening while the war was coming to an end and the Allies were getting closer to finding where Hitler was hiding. It was a tense and scary time for Hitler and Eva in the bunker. On April 30th, around noon, Hitler and his wife, Eva Braun, went into a room and locked themselves in. At 3:30 in the afternoon, people outside heard a gunshot from that room. When Martin Bormann, an officer, and some other helpers went to check, they found Hitler with a gunshot wound to his head, caused by his own Walther PPK gun. Eva Braun was also found dead, but she had taken a cyanide capsule, a type of poison, which killed her very quickly. Afterwards, their bodies were taken outside and burned. They did this to stop the Soviet army from finding them. The next day, the Soviet army took over Berlin. The leader of the Soviet Union, Stalin, wanted to be sure that Hitler had really died. They captured Hitler's dentist and his assistant to check if the teeth they found buried near the bunker matched Hitler and his wife. Even though they said the teeth were Hitler's, Stalin wasn't completely sure he believed it. Because of all this, many people started to wonder what really happened to Hitler. There were lots of different ideas and stories about what might have happened to him in the end. It became a big mystery with many theories, as people tried to figure out the truth about the last moments of one of history's most notorious leaders. One of the most famous stories is that Hitler might have escaped from Germany in a submarine, also known as a U-boat, and went all the way to South America. People said he could have gone to a city called Bariloche in southern Argentina. Another idea was that he might have gone to a secret place in Antarctica. However, these are just stories, and the real evidence doesn't support them. Scientists looked at the teeth that were found and said they were Hitler's. They checked them in different years, 1968, 1972, and as recently as 2017. Every time they studied these teeth, their findings matched the story that Hitler had died in the bunker, as originally thought. So, while these escape stories are interesting, the real evidence tells us that they are probably not true. In the end, the story of Adolf Hitler's last days remains a somber chapter in history. As the war closed in on him, he faced isolation, paranoia, and an uncertain future. His marriage to Eva Braun and their tragic decision to end their lives together marked a desperate act. While rumors of escape persist, scientific evidence supports the conclusion that Hitler did indeed die in the bunker, bringing closure to a tumultuous era in history. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us keep bringing you more great content. Thanks for being part of our community.